This is the emergency broadcast system. Take shelter immediately.
Oh, we better do that. But first, can you do me one favor? Can you look over there? See that yellow light? And I want you to smile because you're on candid camera. No, I'm the only one on camera right now, I think. But let's talk about candid camera. This is a TV show that has ran for decades. What some people might not know is that it was originally called Candid Microphone and was a radio show. But then in the early days of TV in 1949, Candid Camera came to TV. It started out as a pilot episode, and then for a time it was a segment on other TV show. Um, some of those segments have been released on DVD under the title The Lost Archives. But it eventually did become its own TV show. And it would often take breaks and then come back again. So there was this really nice collectible box set released some years ago called Candid Camera 5 Decades of Smiles. You see it's got Alan Funt and Peter Funt, his son, right there on the cover. And this actually slides out because it looks like, at first, like they're in a diner behind a two-way mirror, and then you see them with the behind-the-scenes equipment. So this opens up, and you've got a disc that has the first television episode from 1949, as well as a greatest hits collection of clips throughout most of the decades up until then. So anyway, this collection features full episodes for the rest of the discs. These were also released individually in normal DVD cases, but here they're in slim-sized paper cases with a plastic inside. There's 2 volumes for the 1960s. There's 2 volumes for the 1970s. Oh, and by the way, if you take out a disc behind it, you'll see the camera lens like you've been caught on Candid Camera. So there was a lot of episodes made during those 2 decades in different iterations, and Alan Funt would host the show with various co-hosts. There's 1 volume for the 80s. They didn't have a regular weekly show during this decade. They had a bunch of standalone specials, and it was during this decade that Peter Funt came to the fore. Alan Funt was still there, but he would have Peter take over more of prank duties and hosting duties as well. There's also only 1 volume for the 90s. During the 90s, early 90s rather, there was a weekly regular series, but it was licensed out by the Funts. So it was an official show, but they weren't as involved in it. They didn't host it or anything. And they ended up not being too happy with it, so they didn't even include any of that iteration in this collection, only the ones that they did. And they did go back to making them in the mid-90s. And now Peter Funt was hosting it, and he had different co-hosts, such as Suzanne Summers and then Dina Eastwood, which was used to be Clint Eastwood's wife, and that leads to the last 2 volumes for the decade of the 2000s, apparently. And they are terribly named The Best of Today. Yeah, that title won't age at all, because as we know, today always means the 2000s. Yeah, they should have really named that better. So anyway, that iteration ended up ending in 2004, which was actually when this DVD collection was released. And oh, by the way, it has a crude mirror. It actually doesn't work that well, but it's a gimmick. It says, "Smile, you're on Candid Camera," if you can see yourself in it. I see some mildly reflective visage, but oh well. So anyway, that's a 10-disc set from Rhino Home Video. So what happened with Candid Camera since then? Well, they did come back for another season the decade after that. So that, in fact, was the least active decade. Since it went off in 2004, there was pretty much nothing. And then it ran for 1 season 10 years later in 2014, which was on TV Land, unfortunately. So I never actually got to see this series as a whole because it was on cable, which I don't have. And unfortunately, it's not available on home video or streaming services as I can see. But I was able to watch some skits from it, which were released on the YouTube channel. And now we're in the next decade after that, the 2020s. And Peter Funt did say within the year that he's working on another iteration, but didn't give any more details beyond that. So who knows? Maybe it'll come back again. Always has before. We'll see. See you next time.